We are continuing on Chaitanya Caritamrta, speaking about the different branches of the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I think just the last verse was like 39 branched, and now we are going to speak more about Kulinagrama, the village, actually more the residents of Kulinagram. And what I prepared today was just a little overview of the devotees from Kulinagram, where they're mentioned in the CC and in which context, so that we can just have an overview if we would extract them as so dear devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to see in which regard they were spoken, they were mentioned. And for our guests, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who incarnated 500 years ago to distribute the pure love of God, the essence of all religions and all spiritual paths, to develop pure love for God. And there is not an easier way to develop it than through Sankirtan Harinam, which is through the process that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought here. So, the translation of this verse: Satyaraja, Ramananda, Yadunatha, Purushottama, Shankara and Vidyananda all belong to the 20th branch. They were inhabitants of the village known as Kulinagrama. Just a second. Oops. The next verse. Yes. All the inhabitants, Vaninata Vasu Adi Yatagrami Jana Saibe Chaitanya Britya Chaitanya Pranadhanam. All the inhabitants of Kulinagrama village, headed by Vaninata Vasu, were servants of Lord Chaitanya, who were their only life and wealth. Prabhu kahe Kulinagramera yehaya kukuram seimora priya anya janarahuduram. The Lord said, what to speak of others, even the dog in the village of Kulinagram is my dear friend. And the last verse, Kulinagramira bhagya kuhanena yaya shukara charana doma seha Krishna gaya. No one can describe the fortunate position of Kulinagram. It is so sublime that even sweeper who tend their hogs there also chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Jai. And so we are stopping here in the reading. So we're going to focus on Kulinagram, the residents, one of the really intimate associates, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, always when Krishna comes, Ram comes. So when Krishna is sent to the world in different, pastimes, he always brings his associates with him. And in this regard, absorbing ourselves in the associates of the Lord is the same as speaking about the Lord himself. And the Lord even is really pleased when we are glorifying his associates. So one of those really intimate associates were the devotees from Kulinagram. And there is a whole history about how it came to be. And this Kulinagram is a village close to Calcutta, close to the border with Bengal. At least my research kind of saw this. It's interesting that the verse before, there were devotees from 39th branch, but now it's 20th branch of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If we see like a tree of mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, different branches are kind of a different devotees, different associates. So these associates are one of the branches, and it's really interesting that it is sub-branch of Haridas Thakur. And it is also mentioned in one verse that Haridas Thakur gave a lots of mercy to the devotees of Kalinagram. And the most predominant devotees that we were going to speak about were Guna Raja Khan, who was a Khan because he was leading. Khan means like a leader, like a ruler of that area. Then his son, he had a son, what was Satya Raja Khan, what was also really intimate associate. And then he had a son who was Ramananda Vasu. So those three devotees were the most predominant spoken in the CC about the Lord. And of course we have the others like Shankara, Purushottama, Yadunata, Vidyanatha, and we have dogs. Also dogs from Kalinagram, also really glorious. And it's very fortunate. Why? Because they say that even a sweeper, so it's not a cowboy, but it's a pig boy, I guess. You're like kind of tendering hogs. He also chants Mahamantra. They're all absorbed in the holy name of the Lord. So fortunate, so fortunate. I think it's like really intuitive for them. And, it's like they are born with those qualities and we are just trying to develop them. So we are glorifying them for their qualities. So there are like a few instances that I would like to first mention of where these Kalinagram devotees were mentioned in the CC. So one of the biggest chapters that were mentioned was participating in Ratha Yatra. Because they were like, I think, 4 years that was like described in the CC in Madhya Lila, in these chapters between 10 to 15. And they were also mentioned as one of the devotees that were coming to the Ratha Yatra after the Caitanya Mahaprabhu's tour of South India. They joined in Advaita's house. When Caitanya Mahaprabhu came from South India, he came to Advaita Acharya's house, and then they were also invited to join there with other devotees. When they were participating in the Ratha Yatra, Gopinath Acharya was glorifying them to the king, King Pratiparudra. And Pratiparudra said that they look effulgent. Let me try to find this verse. I would like to read this to you. Just a second. Yes, so this is like one of the sentences about Haridas Thakur. One sub-branch of Haridas Thakur considered of the residents of Kalinagram. The most important among them was Satya Raja Khan. So that was the middle one. Or Satyananda Vasu. He was the recipient of all the mercy of Haridas Thakur. Satya Raja Khan was the son of Gunaraja Khan. So Gunaraja Khan was the first one we mentioned. And the father of Ramananda Vasu. Haridas Thakur lived for some time during the Chaturmasya period in the village named Kalinagram. So Haridas Thakur was the Namacharya. He was Brahma incarnated in this pastime, and he was empowered by the Lord to be the one spreading the pure love, pure chanting of the holy name. And we all prayed to him to get us some mercy so we can chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. To chant without offenses. And we will see later on why. So, where the chanting of the holy name, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and distributed his mercy to the descendants of Vasu family. So let me just check this other part, which is here. Yes. Anyway, we will find it. So, they were mentioned a lot about this Ratha Yatra festival. They actually were one of the Sankirtan parties. They were one of the 7 Sankirtan parties. And in this Sankirtan party, there were 2 dancers. two dancers. It was the father and the son, Satyaraja Khan and Ramananda Vasu, were dedicated as the dancers in the Sankirtan group, and the whole village of Kulinagram was one of the Sankirtan groups. There were 7 around the Rath Yatra cart, and Mahaprabhu expanded himself, and he was actually participating in each of them. And it was all observed by the king Pataparudra. So one of the things that he mentioned, I'll just try to find, I didn't say what is the reference. It was mentioned that the king saw them as a really effulgent, and he was saying, this chanting that are doing, it's so melodious, it just occupies the mind. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that when we are really strict in our sadhana, we are really observing the spiritual master's order, our chanting is potent. Our chanting is really potent, and then it really gives the effect, really makes people attracted to the holy name. So we can say like, okay, you are like on the streets of Croatia. Croatia is a Christian or atheistic, now more atheistic country. So why are you kind of promoting this adult culture here? Well, like, this is weird. But actually, if we have a really potent spiritual practice, chanting of the holy name doesn't have any material designations. Chanting the holy name is not Indian, it's not Asian, it's not Eastern, it's actually pure spiritual sound. So when we are chanting it with pure heart, without offenses, with really good sadhana, this chanting will absorb others, and others will start to appreciate chanting of the holy name. So this is what we are endeavoring. So one of the major things that is mentioned about Kulinagram devotees, so this is in Madhya, chapter 13, let me just jump there, so it is 14, Madhya 14. It is about the rope that Jagannath is being carried. When Jagannath is kind of transported on the Rath Yatra cart, he is pulled by these silk strong ropes. And Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he saw that year the rope broke. So what he did, he gave them an instruction. And for that, they are really famous. Ramananda Vasu and Satyaraja Khan were present in the Kulyagram, and Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu with great respect gave them the following order. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu ordered Ramananda Vasu and Satyaraja Khan to become the worshippers of those rope of Jagannath, and every year bring silk ropes from their village. In the purport, it is understood that silk ropes were being manufactured by the local inhabitants of Kulinagram. Therefore, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu asked Ramananda Vasu and Satyaraja Khan to get the ropes every year for Lord Jagannath's service. After telling them, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu showed them the broken silk ropes, saying, just look at this sample. You must make ropes that are much stronger. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu then informed Ramananda Vasu and Satyaraja Khan that this rope was the abode of Lord Shesha, who expanded himself with 10 forms and served the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is one of the references that Ananda Shesha, the Balaram, he expanded himself in different ways to serve the Lord, and we are trying to at least to worship him in this way. After receiving orders from Lord for the rendering of service, the fortunate Satyaraj and Ramananda Vasu were highly pleased. Every year thereafter, when the Gudicha temple was being cleansed, Satyaraja and Ramananda Vasu would came with other devotees, and with great pleasure bring the silk rope. Also, there is also mentioned about so Satyaraja Khan was a father of Ramananda Vasu. So, and their grandfather of Ramananda Vasu or father of Satyaraja Khan was Gunaraja Khan. Now there is like a few things mentioned in the 15th chapter of Madhya about him. It's 97. The Lord then, with great respect, extended an invitation to all the inhabitants of Kulinagram, asking them to come every year and bring silk robes and carry Lord Jagannath during the Ratha and to bring the silk robes that carry Lord Jagannath during the Ratha Yatra festival. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then said, Gunaraja Khan of Kulinagram compiled a book named Sri Krishna Vijaya, in which there is a sentence relating the author's ecstatic love of Krishna. So, Sri Krishna Vijaya is a book of poem considered to be the first poetry book written in Bengal. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur stated that this book was begun in the year 1395, Shabda. It's 1473 AD. After 7 years it was compiled. This book was written in plain language, and even half-educated Bengali woman would read it very clearly. Even ordinary man with little knowledge of the alphabet could read this book and understand it. Its language is not very ornamental, and sometimes the poetry is not very sweet to hear. Although according to the song style, each line should contain 14 syllables, there are sometimes 16, 12, or 13 syllables in this verse. Many words used in those days could be understood only by the local inhabitants. Yet this book is still so popular that no bookshelf is complete without it. It is very valuable for those who are interested in advancing Krishna consciousness. And now something about Gunaraja Khan. Sri Gunaraja Khan was one of the topmost Vaishnavas, and he translated the 10th and 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam for the understanding of common men. The book of Sri Krishna Vijaya was highly praised by the Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and it is very valuable to all Vaishnavas. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives a genealogical table of family history of Gunaraja Khan. When the Bengali emperor named Adishura first came to Kanyakubja or Kanauj, he brought with him 5 Brahmanas and 5 Kshatriyas. Since the king is supposed to be accompanied by his associates, the Brahmanas accompanied the king to help him in higher spiritual matters. The Kshatriyas were to render other services. In the North India high country, the Kshatriyas are accepted as Shudras, but in the Bengali, Kshatriyas are considered amongst the higher castes. So then he starts speaking about the lineage. The Sri Gunaraja Khan had 14 sons, of whom the second son, Lakshminatha Vasu, received the title Satyaraja Khan. This is one of our guys. His son was the Ramananda Vasu. Therefore, Ramananda Vasu belonged to the 15th generation. Gauraja Khan was very well known as wealthy man. His palace, fort, and temple are still existing, and from this we can dedicate that the opulence of Gunaraja Khan was certainly very great. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was praising his all of his poetry. He said, like, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, is my life and soul. By this statement, I am sold into the hands of the descendant of Gunaraja Khan. To say nothing of you, even a dog living in your village is very dear to me. What then to speak of others? So this is the second time that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking about how even the dogs are really respectable. After that, Ramananda Vasu and Satyarama Khan both submitted questions to the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So these are the devotees, Ramananda Vasu and Satyaraja Khan, were the one asking the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about who is a Vaishnava, and the second question is, or the first question actually before those, is Satyaraja Khan asked, my dear Lord, being a householder and a materialistic man, I do not know the process of advancing in spiritual life. I therefore submit myself unto your lotus feet and request you to give me orders. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu replied, without cessation continue chanting the holy name of the Lord Krishna. Whenever possible, serve him and his devotees, the Vaishnavas. Upon hearing this, Satyaraja said, how can I recognize a Vaishnava? Please let me know what is a Vaishnava. What are his common symptoms? Now this is like really philosophical, and I'm not going to go into it because there are 3 times they ask Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is a Vaishnava? Who is a Vaishnava? Who is a Vaishnava? And each time he kind of expands it more and more. So I'm not going to go deep into that, but I'm going to maybe just read a few answers that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave about Vaishnavas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, whoever chants the holy name of Krishna just once is worshipable and is the topmost human being. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna once, a person is revealed from all the reactions of sinful life. One can complete the 9 processes of devotional service simply by chanting the holy name. Later on we will see I humbly request to see these verses and read the purports of Srila Prabhupada, because it is really amazing. It's really kind of saying in the deep, what does it mean to say Krishna, like to chant the holy names once? What does it mean? And what does it mean for us? Anyway, it is 7:55. I can maybe just stop to see if there is any maybe comment, question or anything. Maybe if somebody wants to add on the glories of the devotees from Kulinagram that maybe you remembered personally, so you can add to this presentation. Anyone? Any question, maybe remark? Okay, so then I can maybe use the following few minutes to maybe read some more of the answers Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave about the question, who is a Vaishnava? He said, no one does not have to undergo initiation or execute the activities required before initiation. One simply has to vibrate the holy name with his lips. Thus, even a man in the lower caste, Chandra, can be delivered. But later in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, you should get initiation. By chanting the holy name of the Lord, one dissolves his entanglement in material activities. After this, one becomes very much attracted to Krishna and his dormant love for Krishna is awakened. The holy name of Lord Krishna is an attractive feature for many saints, liberated people. It is annihilator of all sinful reactions, and it is so powerful that, save for the dumb who cannot chant it, it is readily available to everyone, including the lowest type of man, the Chandala. The holy name of Krishna is the controller of the opulence of liberation, and it is identical with Krishna. So holy name is identical with Krishna. When a person simply chants the holy name with his tongue, immediately effects are produced. Chanting the holy name does not depend on initiation, pious activities, or in Purashcharya regulative principles generally observed before initiation. The holy name does not wait for any of these activities, it is self-sufficient. So let's together chant and try to surrender to the Lord and get all the benefits and mercy for us, the souls, to go beyond our mind, ego, and contaminated intelligence. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So these were the amazing devotees from Kolina Grama, and I hope that we churn some nectar in this regard. Thank you very much. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai.